Sean McVay likely made the final decision back in January to go get Matthew Stafford to replace Jared Goff. And there has been a lingering question about whether or not Matthew Stafford is injured. It's been fascinating to me because according to the injury report, he's not.
Right.
But then somebody leaked to ESPN, he is. Then after the game on Sunday, well, I'm feeling fine and nobody's 100%. Let's hear a little from McVay earlier this week when he was asked the question of what he's seeing from Matthew Stafford as he plays through various ailments and injuries, which implies that he is indeed injured.
All the speculation about Stafford's health and granted in this league, nobody's going to be 100% at this time of year. What are you seeing from him in terms of playing through whatever ailments, injuries, what have you there are?
Well, I'm seeing a really tough competitor. I think that's been, one of the great traits that he's possessed for a long period of time. You just watch the amount of hits and some of the things that he's bounced back from, quickly, whether it be with us or even over the course of his career with the Lions or even going back to Georgia. And so I just see a resilient, tough competitor that continues to compete, continues to battle. His teammates believe in him. His coaches believe in him. And that's what I'm seeing from him, Jim.
Yes, Jim. Thanks for the question, Jim. And by the way, Jim, his question included, Jim, the presumption that Stafford is injured. Now, when I heard that, I thought, hey, if he's not injured, the answer to the question is, well, fortunately, I'm not seeing him right now play through any ailments or injuries. He's fine. Check our injury reports. He's fine. He was on one time this year. Back injury, week 9.
Yeah.
Missed 2 practices.
Yeah.
Played. He's clean, according to our injury report. So, I've seen him in the past with other teams play through injury. I saw him week 9 show up and practice on Friday and play on Sunday, but he's injured. He's not injured. I'm sorry, he's not injured. That question that was very subtly loaded, and the answer, it just deepens this mystery as to whether or not he really is injured. And I can only take Sean McVay at his word when his word would tend to cut against his broader interests. I think he kind of admitted that they're fudging the injury reports, Chris.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe fudging it. Maybe he's just extremely beat up. He's not getting rehab. He's not going into the training room. He might be, soon as practice is over, getting ice on his shoulder and, ice and heat on his knee as he walks into a meeting room, but he's not actually getting rehab. That to me sounded like what he was trying to say. He's an extremely beat up quarterback right now. There's no doubt. He's trying to give Matthew Stafford the benefit of the doubt, probably take a little heat off of everybody or off of him, off the offense, and the fact of, he hasn't been playing his best, but there's issues there, but maybe nothing enough to be, injury report like related that way. To me, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like McVay, and if I had to just break it down, in NFL, lingo or read between the tea leaves, like I like to say, when you hear coaches talk and everything, that's to me what it sounded like. He was trying to give respect to a guy who is struggling and not playing his best football and let everybody know that, man, he's tough, he's a competitor, he's beat up as hell, and maybe that's why he's not playing his best. That's why McVay's great, because he defends his players at all costs all the time. But, yeah, I wonder to what extent if he's really in the training room, what's really going on, because, yeah, they're going to get in trouble if they are fudging the injury report.
Well, and I guess from their perspective, they say, hey, last year Tom Brady played the entire season with a torn MCL in his knee, and he never appeared on the injury report.
Yeah, that's true, too. That's true, too.
They're not really enforcing this right now.
No.
And you know what? Hey, Stan Kroenke is paying $790 million to St. Louis, and he's paid this here and that here and this there. Yeah, it's a parking ticket.
He can afford it. Right.
You're going to fine us for this? Fine. Because this gets back to the narrative that is coming to fruition again. That's what tends to happen with narratives. Future events tend to make them even more relevant. The question of whether or not Matthew Stafford can stay healthy. He is a guy who gets banged up, and that's why going into the season, I said I need to see it from the Rams before I'll believe it.
Yeah.
And first 8 games, I was believing it. What's gone on since then?
Right.
If again, we don't know who to believe here, but I'm going to choose to believe Sean McVay when he answers a question that is based on the assumption that Matthew Stafford's injured, that he is injured.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
And he is dealing with multiple ailments, and we'll see if he can hold it together. Now they got the Jaguars this week. That's the ultimate opportunity to get healthy. But, the question is, as we get into December, and we are officially in December, and then January, is Stafford, who has only ever played 1 week beyond the regular season, is he going to hold together if this team makes a playoff run? We don't know.
No, we don't know. You're right. Now, the play is not stellar right now. I mean, there's no doubt. To me, it looks like he's playing, banged up and not at 100%. The way he's moving, I see him get up from hits at times. He's very slow. He moves gingerly after that. So the other thing that I think is eye-popping to me, is, and I watch the Rams on film pretty closely almost every week the whole year, where, the last 3-4 weeks, he's missed throws where I go, yeah, NFL average quarterback should hit that. Matthew Stafford is 999 times out of 1,000 hits that from everything I've seen through his career. So for his sake right now, I guess what I'm saying is I hope he is banged up, because if he's not banged up, he's really, not playing well, period. But, from the optics of it, the throws that I've seen him miss, that I go, Matthew Stafford can do that with his eyes closed. I can't. There was a handful of them last week against Green Bay where I just go, I just can't believe Matthew Stafford missed that. I'm shocked. So there is that aspect, and, it does look like it's affecting the performance. The other thing I will say, too, is I wish he would bulk up a little bit. It's one of the first things I noticed when he got in the uniform this year. It's just I thought he looked kind of frail and thin. And I hope he's not getting into that age of where, I think he's got to be thinner so he can be a little faster. You're not that fast. You never were. Put a little armor on. Protect yourself. That's what I want to say to him more than anything. But they need him to be healthy and go all systems go here. They need him badly. They're not the same running team they've been in the past. Their defense is not as dominant in making very many plays on the defensive side of the ball. It's about the pass game. And it's about Matthew Stafford and those wide receivers. And if he's not all systems go, they're going to be in Strugglesville there in Los Angeles.
I remember there was a year fairly early in Brett Favre's career where he lost 20 pounds in the offseason and he felt spry and he could move. And he realized it hurt a lot more.
Yes.
When you got thrown around by defensive linemen without that extra 20 pounds on your body. And as it relates to Stafford, I think we invoked this earlier in the week, but I really like this. This is the Shereen Williams test, and it goes like this. It's very simple. She I think, developed it in reference to Baker Mayfield. You're either injured or you stink. And there's got to be an explanation for your subpar performance. And if you're going to tell me you're not injured, then fine, you just stink. It's up to you. Either admit you're injured and use that as an explanation, not an excuse, but an explanation for the reduction in your overall play, because obviously it is going to affect you.
Right.
Or if you're going to insist with a straight face that you're not injured, fine, then you just stink.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the Rams are right now with Stafford. So they want to reserve the right to say he's injured, but they don't want to put targets on the various body parts that are injured by listing them on the injury report.
No doubt about it. Nor, I don't think Matthew Stafford's an excuse guy. I mean, you could say what you want about him in Detroit, but, he never made, BS excuses or tried to blame other people. We can definitely give him credit for that. I don't think you're going to hear him do that. He's kind of got that Texas tough attitude about him that I do respect. I really do. The other thing, too, Mike, that happens sometimes, and especially with quarterbacks where – they already can feel like they get all the attention. They don't want to make it all about them. They don't want to give off the excuse thing in the locker room to the other players. They don't want that to be a thing within the locker room. They're trying to be leaders, right? So that's one aspect. And then I think another thing that, a quarterback tries to do too is he looks around and goes, man, this sport's crazy. Aaron Donald's over there playing with a really hurt shoulder, or this guy over here is playing with a really bad knee. And he's sucking it up, and nobody's talking about that or brings it up, and he just continues to truck along. So you try to be that guy out of respect for the rest of the locker room who is, incredibly beat up, or other guys who are really sacrificing their body on a week-to-week basis right now at a less than 100%. And, You know, I can certainly see that being the thinking, you know, with a guy like Stafford or Tom Brady. And not saying he's Tom Brady, but I think there is a no excuses, I'm just going to keep going along, I'm a football player type of attitude with Matthew Stafford that I definitely won't deny. I do respect that about him.
Yeah, and as he said on Sunday, nobody's 100% this time of year. And that's the great tension in the NFL, because we hear it every year at this time. And if that's the case, then there should be 53 names on the injury report.
Yeah.
So, and there's a question of, are you less than 100%, and are you actively receiving treatment in the training room for your injury?
Right.
Because if your name is going in the books as somebody who's getting some sort of rehab, some sort of treatment, some sort of attention, even if you're fully participating in practice, you need to be disclosed on the injury report. But the tension there is, we don't want to draw attention to the fact that there is a reason to test a certain body part. And we know that defensive players think that way. If they know a guy's got a knee injury, well, we're going to test the knee. And post Bountygate, that kind of talk, you know, from players directly to the media is frowned upon. But we know that that's what they talk about behind the scenes. And we know that there's still an incentive there. Whether we want to talk about it or not, there's an incentive. If you want to win football games, you want the best players for the other team not to be on the field. If there's injuries you can test that could be aggravated, that could cause them to be out of the game.
Yeah.
That's the real discussion that happens, even though post Bountygate they never talk about it anymore.
No doubt. Yeah, defensive
and that's
players,
what they're trying to protect him against. That's what the Rams are trying to protect Stafford against.
You're 100% right. Yeah, defensive players are, hey, he's banged up. We need to hit his, we need to hit his ass this week and see if he can hang in there and do that. Sorry, Manchester. But yes, that's what a defensive player will do, certainly. And your point about, being in the rehab room with the, again, I don't think the team's going to write it in the log or do anything if he just goes in there and gets a little ice or gets stim and then he's out of there. That'll be considered, that's just maintenance. That's just a little maintenance for a player. Now, if he was like seriously seeing one of the therapy trainers, and like it's an hour of therapy, then he's going to go in the book. But like right now, it sounds like, it's probably like, hey, ice, go in the hot tub. Here's a little electric stim to get blood moving out of here. And if it's just that, they're not going to put it on the injury report.
Yeah, and, it makes sense. And also, some of these guys don't get their treatment at the building.
That's another angle, 100%.
Some of these guys have their own company that
they can do it there.
That has their initials on it, that they go get their treatment there.
I'm sure that's how Brady.
MCL.
I'm sure that's how Brady kind of justified that to a degree. Well, I'm not getting treatment here, so you don't need to report it. I'm going over to my lab, and I think, Mike, that's a very real thing in the 2021 world of sports. You're right. We don't know who he's going to see. He's made over $100 million in his career. And he certainly could be seeing his own group of people and maybe telling the Rams training staff and letting them know what's going on, to kind of finagle the rules a little bit and be where he wants to be.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.